All right, it is My Mom's Basement. We are here with one of the most legendary rock stars alive. It's Tommy Lee. He's got a new album out called Andro, out October 16th. How are you, man? How's the quarantine held up for you?
I'm awesome, Robbie. I'm cool, man. Quarantine, schmorantine. Not to sound like I mean it's a there's a lot of bad things that are happening too, but for some reason, um, I don't know, I'm finding all the good in it, and it's actually it's not that different for me because I don't leave the house that much anyway. I'm always in the studio or doing something. So um, uh, I'm doing all right. I'm doing
Yeah,
all
dude, I'm
right.
I'm I'm the
Yeah,
same way.
man.
I'm inside anyway, so it's like an excuse not to go out. I'll take it.
Yeah, you know what? It's actually there's a lot of pros, right? There's
Oh
not
yeah.
that many cons. Like I don't mind it at all. And here's the deal. I think this is really rad because like in the past doing interviews with people, we'd be on the phone doing like phone interviews. I'd be shit that'd be a 2 weeks scheduled, and you'd be talking to people from all over the world. I I dig this now because actually I get to fucking see you.
Yeah.
I can see who I'm talking to. This is actually one of the benefits of the whole pandemic. It's made people find new and I think better ways to communicate. This is rad. I dig this.
Absolutely. Me too. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear it. So I want to
Yeah.
start off by saying I'm a huge fan of yours. I have been my entire life. Nikki Sixx is the reason that I played bass. My brother is a
Oh
drummer
shit.
who raised me on Crew, literally. So I've heard everything from all the Crew shit to Never a Dull Moment to Tommy Land the Ride to the Methods of Mayhem shit. Like I've
Whoa.
literally heard everything that you've ever put out. And
Damn,
I've
dude.
never heard anything like Andro. So
Whoa.
I want to ask you, where does this come from for you? I know the industrial stuff and the hip hop has obviously always been an influence for you, even in the drum solos in the last few tours. We saw that. So where
Yeah.
did this come from for you in 2020?
After the Motley tour was over in 2016, I was like, I'm going to take a year off, no music. I got to air it out. I want a clean slate. And I just did nothing for a year, no music, no nothing. And then I made it a year, and then I just started. Man, I had just a ton of ideas, and I just came down to my studio and just started letting it fly. Really, I've had a bunch of ideas that I just kind of like jotted down or sung, melodies or beats into my phone, and I just came down here and I just started working in the studio and shit, man. Uh, it happened pretty quickly. So um, I was just inspired by just, God, man, like what's moving me, and you know, and new sounds and new technology. God, it's pretty hard not to be inspired when sort of all your options are endless, man. With a lot of the technology today, you can pretty much do anything you want, which is
Yeah.
fun, you know?
Did you have specific musical influences on this? Because they were definitely none that I could pick out myself. Like I said, I've never really heard anything like this. So
Oh,
was it
wow.
musical influences or was it stuff for you, like you said, going into the studio and just jotting down melodies and sounds and then seeing what came out of that?
God, I to say that didn't, don't have any influences would be crazy. I'm influenced by so many things. We all are. We hear everything, all these things all the time. Um, there's not like one particular artist or a couple particular artists, and that are influencing. I'm generally influenced by shit that like by stuff that moves me. I mean, there's a lot of new stuff that's come out where I'm like, oh my God, that's dope. Or, I'll see something, or I'm really influenced by a lot of things, not in particular like a style or an artist. Um, I think probably one of my biggest influences is sonics. Like, man, when shit sounds good, like, you know, that freaks me out. Like, I'm a big ear candy guy. If it's something that so I was inspired to create something that maybe you haven't heard yet, Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
that's a big one for me, because fuck, making something that's already out there or similar to something is kind of pointless. Like, it's already out there, so why try to bite that or do, you know? So I'm always pushing to make something new and something hopefully fresh that somebody may or may not have heard before, you know, like, so that's kind of where I get my juice from.
I think fans of yours would definitely agree with that. You're always pushing the new, directions and genres and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, a common theme that this shares with all your other stuff is how loud it is, how in your face it is, and how many collaborations you have. You've done a lot of collaborations and people doing vocal features on your solo stuff in the past. I wanted to ask you, a lot of the collaborations on this album are, like in the past, underground people or people that maybe you're putting on. Do you find pleasure in that as a guy who has this massive platform, as a guy who's Tommy fucking Lee, being able to kind of put people on? Like, I saw Shoddy Horrors on this, and that's a guy that I've known from the battle rap game, and I was just blown away from that.
That's crazy. That's cool that you know him.
Yeah.
He's a badass. And I was telling somebody earlier, I have a list of people, that, I'll see something or hear something and I'll be like, God damn, I love this person. Or there's something about their style, or I would love to collaborate with them. And I have a list. And as I'm writing music, I'll be doing something and I'm like, oh my God. For instance, with Somacoma, I'm like, Shoddy would fucking murder this, like, hands down. And I reached out to him, sent him the track, and he's like, yo, dude, I got this, no problem. And he nailed it.
It's a cool track. Yeah.
So yeah, so I really enjoy collaborating with people. And for this one, I got extreme pleasure out of, and not that I didn't before, collaborating with people, everyone from, You God from Wu-Tang to Fred Durst, Kid Rock, Little Kim, George Clinton, with the Method stuff. That was all super, super rad and fun. But this one is, it's like that, but even more fun. Like, I get a bit more from it, just because, like I said earlier with the music, hoping to turn somebody on to something they haven't heard or felt yet. The same goes with the artists. Like, man, I know for a fact some people haven't heard a few of these people on the record, and they're going to, if I can sort of give them, that platform of, and turn some people on, boom, they're, that, to me, that's enjoyable. Like, oh my God, dude, have you heard so-and-so? For instance, Push Push, dude, she is a fucking firecracker. She's got that South African, accent, and which kind of reminds me of some Diane Antwoord stuff meets, some other shit. And I'm hoping that somebody, just really digs that and goes, wow. And then now she's got some new fans, so that part's cool to me. I'm getting a kick out of that.
Yeah, as a guy who's always pushed those boundaries, does it ever annoy you or piss you off to hear some rock stars that you came up with talking about the current generation of music like there's nothing good out there?
Dude, that bums me out so much, because there's a ton of good shit. There really is. Maybe they're just not, listening in the right area, right places, but there's a lot of good stuff out there, and it's inspiring, it's, yeah, if you're looking for maybe, I get where they're coming from when they say that partially. If you're looking for the new, like, I ask myself that question, is like, where are the rock stars? Like, and that doesn't really necessarily pertain to music. That's sort of like an iconic thing. Like, where are the rock stars? Like, where's the guy that, that freaks you out, like either scares you or like blows you away, like, you know what I mean? So that is missing. I will say that. I think that's definitely missing. But as far as music goes, there's a lot of cool stuff out there, man. I hear it all the time. All the time.
Yeah, I'm with you. So as a guy that's a rock star pushing the boundaries of hip hop with this record. I want to ask you about a friend of yours, Machine Gun Kelly, who's doing the opposite with his latest record, Tickets to My Downfall. I wanted to just see if you had heard it or if he had ran any of the tracks by you. He's diving into the rock and roll game. I've been a pretty big fan of this record since it came out. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I heard it and it sounds cool, man. I need to go back and listen to it again. But I kind of went through it and listened to it, and it's cool, man. You know, it makes you think, is this more Coulson? Because that guy loves rock music.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of rappers, dude, really dig rock music. I mean, look, Post Malone did like a 2-hour Nirvana cover session on YouTube. I was like,
awesome.
And I know Posty, and he digs fucking rock music.
Yeah, you've got him on this record on a bonus track.
Yeah, a lot of rappers dig rock, and they also dig the lifestyle. And if you notice, obviously it's been you've seen it a million times in videos where they're just rock starring it out, and this is hip hop, and that's in there. And so this is probably Machine Gun Kelly's way of just showing everybody like a bit more of who he is. He's not just a fucking just a rapper, and I think it's cool.
Yeah.
And I'll bet he's having a fucking blast with it. I know he is.
Yeah, and speaking of the hip hop people and people in hip hop and rappers in general, just respecting rock stars and appreciating the lifestyle nowadays. How did you feel when Post and Tyler put out a song called Tommy Lee, basically like an homage to your time on top of the world as a rock star?
I was fucking tripping balls. Like, okay, I love Post. I played drums on his Beer Bongs and Bentley's record a couple years ago. And I love him. But when they came to me, they're like, dude, we got a song called Tommy Lee, and we want you to remix it. And I listened to this song and I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. This is so, like, I didn't even know what to think. Like a lot of hip hop dudes shout out my name in their tracks, like, which is always cool. And like, that's, it's cool to hear you shout out in a bunch of those songs. But they're like, when they name the whole fucking song Tommy Lee and they're talking about this and that, and I'm like, whoa, this is wild. And they asked me if I'd remix it, and I was like, hold on, let me think about it. Yeah. Dude, so rats. And so yeah, played drums and smashed some guitars on it and did sort of my take on a remix of it, and it turned out they loved it. And it's just pretty wild, dude. It's pretty wild when your homies shout you out like that. That's pretty massive.
It's just like another thing etched in stone that will always be there, idolizing, Tommy Lee and his time as the biggest rock star in the world. So that's pretty awesome.
Crazy. It's funny because later today at around 2:00, I have a session here. Are you familiar with a dude named 24K Golden?
The name sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the fucking biggest song on the planet this week. It's a song called Mood.
Okay.
Yeah, check it out. He's got a new song called Climb, and it features Machine Gun Kelly, and I'm cutting the drums on it here this afternoon.
Oh, that's awesome. That's all. Yeah, any collab between you and Machine Gun Kelly. I mean, even the song that you guys did together for the Dirt soundtrack, I thought was pretty dope.
Oh yeah, he killed that.
Yeah,
he killed that.
It was just cool to hear a hip hop verse on a Motley Crue song. Something that, like, as a Crue fan growing up with Crue, I mean, blew my mind. And speaking of that movie, I was a huge fan of the movie. I read the book probably before I should have, age-wise. And then the movie was just like a perfect snapshot of the band, right? It captured the energy of Motley Crue. How did that final product compare to what you originally envisioned? Because, man, it was in the works forever. I remember reading about it in 2008, 2009 even.
Right. Yeah, I know, dude. It took forever. And I can't even tell you how happy all of us are and we're with the movie. Like, I still scratch my head. I can't believe that it was made so accurate and so incredible to get. I don't even know how many years that book covers, but to smash that into like an hour and 30 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever the movie length was, that's insane. And smashing it in, I mean, not like just like, yeah, here's just like a clusterfuck of stuff that doesn't make sense. It was just wild back then. It played out. It all worked. And hats off to Jeff Tremaine for you know, honoring his word. Because when we met with him, he was like, guys, we met with several directors because we were really apprehensive at first. We were like, I don't know, dude, Jackass? Like, he's directed Jackass. This isn't a fucking comedy.
Yeah.
And we love Jackass. Like, that's rad.
Of course, yeah.
And so we were a little apprehensive, and he's like, no, dudes, I'm telling you, there's nobody else on the planet to make this movie but me. I swear to God, you know, A, he's a giant fan, and B, his dedication in his mind in this meeting was like, dudes, I'm going to bring everybody right back to that time when they're watching this, you know. And for a lot of people that weren't around during that time, they're gonna trip the fuck out, you know, like, right? So
totally.
So it was cool that he did that, you know. He brought everybody right to a time, either right back if you were there, or brought people who were never there to this time of like, whoa, is that what it was like back then? Dude, it's for pretty much till the wheels fall off, like anything goes. Like, it's nothing like today. And, you know, and that time will never be again. So he did, you know, massive justice to those who've been there and those who haven't, and not all get to experience this fucking insane time, right?
Yeah. And it was obviously a massive success. I mean, it literally brought Motley Crue like back from the dead, back from retirement. I assume you never thought that would happen. But when you went into the studio to record a couple songs with the guys, first time back in the studio with them in a long time for the soundtrack, was the seed planted? Did you have any idea in your mind, like, we might get back together after this thing's over, or not at all?
Yeah, no, we were done. We were like, you know what? We're big. Like, our pride is just, it's too much to go. We were like, you know what? Let's just call it a day now, because the last thing we all ever pictured us doing was playing like county fairs,
yeah,
you know, to like, you know, I don't know, 340, 50 people, you know, 500 people. We're like, we're going out when fucking arenas are sold out, and we're just going to be like, thank you, good night, and just peace the fuck out, like, you know, now, and not do the rest of it and leave everything on a high note. And we were like, this is it, we're done. And then the movie came out, and, you know, that thing, the success of that thing just blew up, and Live Nation, the promoters, came to us and offered us a deal we couldn't pass up. I mean, we've never played stadiums, and we were like, fuck, you want to go play stadiums? And we were like, fuck yes. You know, so that's kind of how that happened. And the movie is a big you know, instigator for all that, and it brought everybody to a place of like, you know what, dude, we've never done stadiums, and fucking, and okay, yeah, let's go do it. And then the tickets went on sale, and it sold out like immediately. We were like, what, dude, this is crazy.
It's massive. It's absolutely
crazy.
And then COVID fucked everything up. We'll get you next year, though. We'll get you next year with that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Right.
Next June, we're doing it.
So
We're
I've
doing it.
got some kind of like fanboy Motley questions to ask you.
All right.
Things I've been wondering about forever. So on what
Oh,
Motley record do you feel you did your best drumming?
oh, that's hands down the Karabi record, the self-titled, uh, Motley record.
Yeah.
It just we were in such a fucking a creative place with John, and we had a lot to prove because it is suicidal to change a singer. You can replace a guitar player, drummer, bass player, whatever, sort of.
Especially if a singer with a voice as iconic as Vince, right? It's such
It's,
a
yeah,
specific voice.
totally, and replacing him with a voice that's completely different,
Yeah, the
completely
grunge
opposite.
sound.
Right, it's just growly and like, so we had a lot to prove. So everybody was on their musicianship, like, peaked out. Like, dude, everything that gets recorded has to be the fucking best you got, right? Because otherwise, this is it. Like, and so yeah, that'll definitely, that's the one for me personally, drumming wise and sonically. That thing just rips.
I'm glad you said that. I mean, from the first fill on Power to the Music, when you come in, like, me and my brother are crazy about that record. Absolutely. We did a podcast where we did our top 10 underrated Motley songs. I think my top 5 were all off MC94. Misunderstood. Listen, I could geek out about that record to you all day.
Dude, that's so cool, man. That's so rad.
Another album that I don't think got the credit it deserved at the time, and now I was barely alive when this came out. I was not alive, I don't think. So it's weird of me to say, but Generation Swine was Vince's return to the band, right? And you guys went with the more industrial, experimental sound. I think it's fair to call it the most experimental Motley record.
For sure.
And people probably wanted something that sounded like the Motley they knew at the time. But looking back, I feel like that record's aged really well as well. What do you look back on that record and think?
That record, I love. There are some songs on that record that are some of my favorite Crue tracks. That was a really cool time. I have to say it was, producer Scott Humphrey, who I've worked with Methods, and Scott's a really he's a great producer, and he and myself, I have to take responsibility for pushing. We were pushing, the band to really to fucking go to another level creatively. Like, we've already made Shout at the Devil. We've made this. We made that. Like, those have already been made. Let's not just make another one of those. Fuck, why?
Yeah.
So we were pushing, and I was trying to, inject some, not a ton, but some more electronics into the production and into the songs. And it was hard for some of the guys in the band. They weren't as inspired to do that. They're quite happy with sort of, the way things were. And it was a tough record to make, but man, there was some good shit on there. And it was Vince coming back. A lot of that stuff had been written with Karabi.
Yeah.
And Vince came in, and I remember, dude, we would fucking erased Karabi's tracks and put Vince on. So a lot of that stuff, that's where it was headed.
Yeah.
And then Vince came back, and there you have it. But that record is cool, man. Generation Swine's got some fucking dope stuff on it also. It was just the next level for us.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it speaks, bringing it all the way back to Andro, to the way that you've always pushed, look at MC94, you guys kind of went into that grunge sound. Look at Generation Swine, went into the industrial sound when, the Pumpkins were on top of the world. Speaking of the Pumpkins, you played drums for an album on, one of their discography.
Yep.
You're the drummer on an album. I've never heard you really talk about that collaboration. What was working with Billy Corgan like?
Dude, Billy's fucking awesome, and obviously I love the Pumpkins. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
When he asked me to play on his record, I was tripping because that's typically not. And Billy's a huge Motley fan, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah. And when he asked me to play on his record, I immediately thought, well, fuck yeah, I would love to, but I don't know if I can. I won't do something with somebody if I can't bring something to the party. Like if I can bring it and add something, spectacular to this thing, then I'm down. And I was just thinking, like, that I could do it, but is this really, there's some prog rock, like there's some crazy time signatures.
I mean,
and
stepping into the shoes of Jimmy Chamberlain in and of itself is intimidating.
Dude, yeah, he's a badass. He's definitely a badass. And so I took it on, because to me it was a challenge, and I enjoyed it. It was a mind fuck, and it took me out of sort of my box and put me into this crazy, which was fun, this crazy prog rock thing where sort of you could really play with. And Billy is funny because he is such a stickler, dude. You won't believe this. I mean, with today's technologies, with Pro Tools or Ableton or whatever, you can take a super badass drum track and maybe the end, you kind of ran out of steam or whatever, and just, you could take that from another track and put it in. No way. He's such he's a stickler for, I want that magical take. I want from top to bottom, like, that's the one.
Yeah.
And we didn't stop until that was it. I mean, he fucking wore my ass out. It was a lot of fun, but he wanted that, like that Led Zeppelin shit where, like, from top to bottom, it's one take, there's no edits, and it's got magic in it. It's not like, been cut together with the best of the best. It was magical from the second it started to the second it ended. It was fun. Challenging as fuck.
It's a cool record. It's a really cool record. So I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
Noel Gallagher of Oasis once said, "I've pretty much summed up everything I ever wanted to say in Rock and Roll Star, Live Forever, and Cigarettes and Alcohol. After that, I'm just repeating myself in a different way. If you had to, what songs would you use to sum up Motley Crue's career? What would you use? 3 songs to say everything Motley Crue ever wanted to say."
Wow. Wild Side, Girls, 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 and hold on here. Fuck. Oh boy. Oh my God. 3 songs. Jesus Christ. There's going to be a bunch left out. I guess. Oh my God, dude.
It's a tricky one. Only 3.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. I'm going to say, dude. You know what? Home Sweet Home.
I was thinking that. You know what? In the back of my mind, I was like, "Let's be Home Sweet Home."
Because that was cool for us. It was a departure from your, it was piano and this song about being on the fucking road forever and wanting to go home. And so yeah, I'll go with those 3.
All right.
There's a bunch missed out, but there's only 3.
I mean, if you're only picking 3, I'll take them. I think those are a good 3. Tommy,
cool,
I appreciate the time a ton. Like I said, Andro, everyone check it out. October 16th, this record comes out. It's unlike anything you've ever heard. And hopefully, listen, it's 2020. Everything's getting rebooted nowadays. I hope Tommy Lee Goes to College gets rebooted. We'll get a sequel.
We were just talking about that the other day. You never know. Right on, Robbie. Take care, bro. You be good.
Thank you very much, Tommy.